Our story begins somewhere on the streets of New York City. It is the evening. People are hustling to and fro, either going to work late or coming home from it. We soon are on the corner of a particular street where a fancy-looking mansion-esque high-rise can be seen. A single, solitary light can be seen from a window a few floors up, and as we move into it, some light, airy, but slow opera music is heard on a record player. There are currently two people present within the room. The first is Nadia, a demure, sweet, kind-looking girl, aged around 11. She is dressed in a white and pink dress and is standing in the middle of the room, looking towards the second figure, Madame Hortense, aged around 60 to 70, a stern-looking woman dressed to impress and with a fancy walking stick in her hand. Nadia slowly inhales and exhales as the music plays. Then she begins to sing an operatic lilt.
Keep going. That was correct, but don't stop to gawk at me. Continue. Judges won't like it when you stare at them for approval, would they?
I wonder, I wonder why each little bird has someone to sing to, sweet things to, a gay little love melody.
Wrong. Try it again.
I wonder, I wonder why each little bird has someone to sing to, sweet things to, a gay little love melody.
We didn't practice this week, did we?
I did practice, Madame Hortense, but I've been feeling under the weather lately. If you'll just let me sing it fully,
Did I ask for excuses, you foolish girl? Just try it again. From the top.
Yes, ma'am.
Meanwhile, outside on the street corner, a boy, aged around 11 as well, walks up and stations himself just by a street light. He is dressed in tattered rags and he carries a violin case with him. This is Brendan. He slowly unpacks the case and pulls out a somewhat old-looking, but still playable violin and bow. He softly, slowly, begins to play a low but melodic tune in silence. As he plays, a few passers-by plunk down some coins and a few dollars into his empty violin case. He nods his thanks with each donation.
Thank you. Thank you. You're all so kind.
Brendan momentarily stops his playing and gazes up at the lit window. He sees the figure of Nadia there, and he smiles smittenly at it, then wistfully sighs.
There she is. The girl who sings opera. Gosh, she's so beautiful. I suppose that's why I come here most nights to play. To catch just a glimpse of her. But also, I can't help but wonder, who is she? And why does she always look so sad? Goodness, Poor sweet Songbird.
Meanwhile, back inside, the record player begins to skip and the music warps out of tune. With an annoyed sigh, Madame Hortense goes over to the record player, takes the needle off the record, and begins to look it over.
Lost this confounded machine. That idiot repairman swore he had it fixed. I've had this player for over 40 years. I simply will not replace it.
Madam, may I take a few minutes break while you fix it?
Absolutely not. Nadia, if you are to be a world-famous opera singer, such as I was, you must keep practicing.
But how can I sing without music?
Ugh, impudent girl, always with excuses. Sing without music. Most talent opera singers do just that. Nadia, you will receive the back of my hand if you sigh like that once more. Now, continue.
Yes, ma'am. I wonder.
Louder, if you please.
I wonder. I wonder why each little bird has a someone.
Meanwhile, Brendan cocks his ear to listen to Nadia and sees her by the window. He smiles smittenly at her. Slowly, he lets out a whistle to get Nadia's attention. Nadia trails off and gazes at Brendan, who smiles and bows to her. Nadia lets out a small, silent giggle, and she curtsies. Brendan then begins to play on the violin, softly, sweetly. It is the tune for I Wonder. Nadia gasps in surprise, then giggles again and starts to sing, a more joyful, confident operatic lilt.
I wonder why each little bird has a someone to sing to, sweet things to. Again, it's a love melody.
Madame Hortense cocks her ear to listen, then, with a frown, she marches over to the window, pushes aside Nadia, and with a stern iron gaze, barks down to Brendan.
You there, boy? Stop that incessant playing. You're distracting my ward. If you must play, go elsewhere in the city.
Madam Hortense, I apologize. I did not mean to distract. Your ward singing is simply marvelous. By the way, she'll be a star for sure.
Ugh. Dirty little beggar, disgusting urchin.
Now, madam, be kind. We don't know for sure he's an urchin, and he doesn't seem dirty to me. In fact, he's quite handsome, and he's a very talented violinist. I've heard him playing times before.
Ugh. Sounds like a cat screeching down the street, if you ask me. And as for you thinking him handsome, that sort of talk, girl, is not acceptable for someone attempting to be a star in the opera world. If your mind wanders from singing and perfecting your craft and gravitates to the silly, mindless little boys, you will fail in your quest to become the greatest. You simply will be boring, plain, sad little Nadia. Not Nadia D'Ambrose, the next ingenue of the opera world. Do you understand?
But
It's a yes or no question, girl. Do you understand?
yes, ma'am.
With that, Madame Hortense goes off as Nadia frowns at her, but she gazes out the window at Brendan, who is gazing right back. Their eyes lock, and Brendan smiles and silently puts a hand to his heart and moves it up and down quickly, as if showing a heart beating fast. Nadia giggles in return, and she smiles sweetly, then blows a kiss towards him. Brendan smiles and catches it, placing it in his shirt pocket as he grins and goes back to playing the violin. We soon fade out from this and fade into the bedroom of Nadia a few days later. Nadia is in a nightgown and slipping under the covers as Madame Hortense and a man dressed as a butler stand over her.
Good night, Madame Hortense.
Good night, my dear. Remember, you have a rehearsal first thing in the morning, 9 a.m. sharp. Do not oversleep. Then at 11, you are being interviewed by the local arts magazine about your singing.
May I skip the rehearsal and interview, Madam? Please?
You certainly may not.
One skipped rehearsal and one skipped interview won't hurt. Besides, it's summer. I'd like to try and enjoy myself a bit outside. Perhaps we can go to the park or take a walk through the theater district. Please say yes, Madam.
No.
Oh, very well. I had a feeling you'd say that.
Shall thank me later when you are a star. Now then, off to bed with you, my girl. Thompson, you are dismissed for the evening.
Thompson nods as Nadia slowly lays back down and puts the covers over her. He bows his head to Madame Hortense and exits the room. Madame Hortense pats Nadia gently on the head twice, then also exits. For several moments, Nadia is asleep, though soon we hear gentle, sweet-sounding violin music from outside of Nadia's window. She soon stirs and her eyes flutter open.
What's that?
Nadia sits up and tiredly goes to her window. She peeks out from the curtains, and there she spots Brendan. He is playing his violin as a few passers-by plunk down coins or dollar bills into his violin case. He nods his thanks each time. Nadia smiles as she watches him.
That sweet, cute violin playing boy. Here again, right outside my window this time. Goodness me. Gosh. I wonder what his name is. Or what his story is. I've seen him at this very same corner almost every night. He's spoken to Madame Hortense when she's rebunked him a few times. But never to me. I guess I've just been too shy to open my mouth, except to sing.
A long beat. Nadia slowly gazes back out at Brendan, then, with a shy, sweet giggle, she begins to open her window.
I simply must speak to him, as long as I'm not too loud. Yoo-hoo! Hello down there!
Hello?
Up here, silly.
Well, good evening to you, dear pretty Miss Songbird.
Songbird?
Well, begging your pardon, miss, but I'd never actually heard her name from you or anyone else.
I'm Nadia.
I'm Brendan.
A pleasure, dear Brendan.
A pleasure right back.
Brendan, may I be so curious to ask, why do you play that violin so much? Not that I mind how wonderful it sounds, but every night I hear it. Why?
Well, I'd love to tell you, but I'd rather not shout our conversation. Would Miss Nadia be so bold as to come outside and speak to me down here?
Come down to you.
Of course, that is, if the keeper of the castle, Madame Hortense, would allow Rapunzel down from her tower.
Goodness, I don't think she would. I'm never allowed to go out alone without a chaperone, especially at night. And, well, especially when it comes to a boy calling for me. Madame Hortense is very protective of me, you see.
You have my word. As a fellow performer, I shall be on my best behavior and won't keep you out too late. Please, Miss Nadia. It would be a privilege to see your beauty up close instead of from afar.
My beauty? I shall be down in 10 minutes. Wait for me.
Brendan nods eagerly as Nadia quietly closes her curtains and window. She excitedly, but quietly, goes over to her closet and picks out a nice-looking cream-colored dress and gloves. She places them on her bed and goes over to her vanity mirror nearby. She pulls out a powder puff and uses it on her face a bit, then applies a tiny bit of lipstick to her lips, then primps her hair and smiles in satisfaction. She soon grabs her dress as we fade to Brendan outside, about 10 minutes later. He waits with anticipation as, soon, Nadia comes demurely walking over to him. She smiles and taps Brendan on the shoulder.
Here I am, dear Brendan. Now you can see me up close.
Miss Nadia.
Brendan takes one of Nadia's gloved hands in his and kisses it gently.
At last, we meet.
You're just as charming and sweet up close as you are from afar. Brendan, and just as handsome, too.
Gosh, thank you, miss.
Well, now that I'm here, and we're speaking up close, rather than my shouting from a window, you can tell me, sweet Brendan, why do you play your violin every night? You're so very talented. You should be playing in a concert hall instead of on some silly cold street corner. Oh dear. I didn't say anything I shouldn't have, did I?
It's not something I'm proud of, Miss Nadia, but my father, he passed away 2 years ago. And my mother, she's far too sick to work. So with the man of the house, for her and my 2 younger sisters, I go out and play the violin, the only thing I know how to do. My grandmother taught me how to play from when I was old enough to pick one up. I go out and try and get as much money as I can and give it to my mother so she can keep us under a roof.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Brendan. I'm so sorry. You must think me horrid that I said what I said before.
You couldn't have possibly known, miss. It's all right.
You poor sweet thing. I wish I could do something to help you. In fact, I think I shall do something. I'll speak to Madame Hortense in the morning to...
Let me stop you right there, miss. Nadia, I'm not a charity case. I don't go around trying to make people feel sorry for me. And I don't feel sorry for myself either. I wish to get to know you just for that reason. To get to know you. Not to try and get money from you or Madame Hortense. I appreciate your kindness, but I wish to earn money honestly, not by giving a sob story.
I apologize. Perhaps I should go.
No, it's fine. I apologize. I didn't mean to shame you. I guess it's just, well, I've learned to just fend for myself my whole life. Did not take handouts. It's just ingrained in me, is all. It wasn't my intentions to make you feel bad, miss.
Thank you.
Well, Never mind me. What about you, Miss Nadia? Tell me about your opera singing. You're very, very talented. What got you bitten by the singing bug, huh?
Goodness, I don't even know where to begin. It's a bit of a long story.
I'm willing to listen.
Well, I'd love to sing from when I was very small, but I especially like to sing opera. So my mother and father, they found Madame Hortense, who herself was a famous opera singer from years ago, and she agreed to give me lessons.
I've seen her name before. In papers and on old opera album covers. She was quite a singer when she was younger.
Madame Hortense, she saw a lot of potential in me. So she made me her one full-time student. Unfortunately, about a year ago, both my parents, they passed away. There was a terrible boating accident, and
I'm sorry.
it's fine. The pain is still there, but it does get a little better every day. Well, Madame Hortense, she pitied me, and since I have no other relatives around that I'm aware of, Madame, she adopted me, made me her ward, and ever since then, she's been like a mother to me. A rather controlling and opera-obsessed one, but a mother nonetheless. I know Madame Hortense means well. She wants me to succeed, just like she did. But, gracious, sometimes it weighs so heavily on me. She can be a real witch when she wants to. Putting my singing down, making me feel so small. Constantly berating me for the slightest of reasons.
Well, that's not fair. Not fair at all. I'll have some choice words for her if I were ever to face her up close. Believe me, you don't deserve such a thing to happen to you.
Let me be the one to stop you now. Brendan, you're sweet to say that. But I'm not a sheltered princess in need of rescuing from a dashing prince. It does upset me that she does things like that sometimes. But I'm not looking for someone to sweep me away and take me to a better place. As much as it hurts, if it'll get me to become an opera star, I have to put up with it. Please understand.
Gosh, now I'm the one who feels foolish.
You meant well. Don't worry. Gosh, I guess in a way, we're both quite alike.
I think you might be right.
Gosh, we're on two ends of the spectrum. I'm rich.
And I'm poor.
And yet, we're the same in lots of ways. We're both trying our best to get by in this crazy world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Nadia, may I be a bit honest with you?
Of course.
Well, I did want to get to know more about you. That's true. But I have to confess, a small part of me is quite smitten with you.
Really?
Really.
Well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't consider you to be very handsome as well.
You think so?
I know so. In fact, I do believe I'm smitten with you too.
Oh, Wow.
Nadia and Brendan gaze adoringly at one another for several moments, both shyly, bashfully, blushing as they do. Soon, Brendan removes his cap and places it down by his violin case.
If I'm not being too forward, Miss Nadia, with your permission, of course, might I be so bold to ask you for one kiss?
A kiss? Uh, Goodness, you're quite forward here, Brendan. Though, you being very cute and very sweet balances it out.
Brendan grins more and eagerly puckers his lips out, then leans in towards Nadia, who giggles and playfully holds up her hands to block
Now, Brendan, do behave yourself. Besides, there's a whole group of people out here on the street. Surely we'll be seen kissing at this rate.
I didn't think about that. I apologize for this, Miss Nadia.
You didn't let me finish, dear Brendan. With this fan here, we better hidden.
Nadia has indeed pulled out a white fan and opened it up. Brendan grins as Nadia giggles and holds up the fan to both of their faces, obscuring them. Suddenly, Brendan's body tenses up briefly, then wilts smittenly after a few moments. We can assume a kiss is happening. After a few seconds, as some ominous music plays, we soon see a shadow loom over the two kids. It is Madame Hortense. With an angry, stern iron gaze, she bangs the pointed end of her walking stick once with authority.
So,
Madame Hortense! I didn't see you there.
Madame Hortense, a pleasure, ma'am. I've heard many stories about your time as an opera singer. It's an honor to meet you up close.
spare me your lies, you little worm. So, not only did you walk out of this house with no attendant to accompany you, but you're cavorting with this filthy little beggar here?
Madam, I assure you, I meant no harm. I've admired Nadia singing from afar, and I...
Enough! Be quiet, you disgusting little vermin. Get away from her, and stay away from her from now on. If I spot you on the corner where you usually play that violin of yours, peeping on Nadia, I shall telephone the police. I shall make sure you're locked up for the rest of your life.
Madam, please be reasonable. We just shared one innocent kiss. And besides, Brendan is a skilled violin player. He could compliment my singing.
No, what nonsense. An upper-class, up-and-coming young opera singer such as you, having a musical accompaniment by a low-class thing such as that?
With all due respect, madam, I didn't choose to be a beggar. And I certainly don't have to stand here and be insulted by you as well as you word witch.
How dare you speak to me in such a way? Nadia, come. You are heading back inside, and I shall be telephoning the police at once.
Ma'am, no, please, no.
If you were smart, young man, you'd leave this area right now because I am not bluffing. Come along, Nadia.
No.
I said, come, Nadia, now.
Yes, ma'am.
Madame Hortense takes Nadia roughly by the hand and she begins to lead her away. Brendan, almost defiantly, stands his ground, staring down Madame Hortense.
I will not let you intimidate me. I won't leave. I'll play my violin until my hands fall off, if I must. And I won't let you speak to Nadia in that way either. You'll see.
Enjoy a space in the juvenile detention center then, young man. Remember, I gave you fair warning. If you're still here when the police arrive, that's on you, and you alone.
Nadia!
Brendan!
Brendan can only watch in defeat as Madame Hortense roughly brings Nadia back inside. We are soon back in Nadia's room. The door opens and Madame Hortense roughly pulls Nadia by the wrist to her bed, plopping her down on it.
Stop! Please stop!
Silence! I'm locking your door when I exit. Now, if you know what's good for you, you horrid little brat, you'll go to sleep. And we will be having a long discussion about this in the morning.
I hate you! Brendan was right! You really are a horrible, wicked old witch!
Oh, I see. I take you in after your parents pass. I teach you everything you need to know to become a star, and this is my thanks. To have you call me a witch. Say you hate me. That is gratitude for you.
Just leave me alone. Good night.
Good night.
Madame Hortense slowly strides out of the room and slams the door shut. Seconds later, we hear the sound of a key locking Nadia's bedroom door. Nadia, tears flooding her eyes, lets out a sob and collapses onto her stomach, sobbing into her pillow as she does. We soon hear Madame Hortense's voice from off camera.
Hello, police. This is Hortense Von Damme. I'd like to report a young vagrant outside of my address. He is stalking my young ward. He has been coming here every night for days and days, and he won't leave.
She's lying! He's done no such thing!
Please send some officers to haul him away to the juvenile detention center. My address is 84 Madison Avenue. Thank you.
You horrible bully of a witch! You're terrible! Awful!
You're in enough trouble, young lady. I suggest you quiet down to avoid digging your hole deeper. Now, go to sleep.
Nadia again begins to sob, this time into her pillow. She softly, sadly weeps as, with the passage of time, it is now a few minutes later. Nadia is lying on her side, her eyes stained with tears, sadly staring at her window. Soon, we hear muffled voices from outside. All right, son, we got a call about you. Just come with us, just for the evening. We'll have you released in the morning.
No. I know why you're here. Whatever Madame Hortense said about me, it's just a lie. I'm just trying to make money for my family, officer.
I understand that, son, but we need to sort this out. Just come with us and we'll talk it over at.
Don't grab my arm like that. Let me go.
Ugh, please don't make this difficult for me, kid. Come on. I said come on.
No, let go. Take your hands off me. Help me.
Let's go. Come on.
Brendan, I'm sorry.
Nadia closes her eyes and shakes her head in sorrow as we black out. A brief passage of time and scene change. It is now a few days later. Nadia is seated in her rehearsal room, reading over some sheet music, studying it silently. Soon, we hear a door open, and Madame Hortense walks in. She gazes at Nadia silently for a few moments.
Good morning, my dear.
Hello.
It is far too early for you to be acting like a disrespectful little brat, Nadia. Turn to me and greet me properly. Nadia. Nadia, my child, look at me, please. Nadia, please, my girl, look at me. I wish to speak to you.
Yes?
My child, it's been 4 days now, 4 days of you barely saying a word to me. I know I have this aura of being unfeeling, unemotional ice queen, but Nadia, this is hurting me. More than you know. You're like a daughter to me.
You know perfectly well why I'm upset.
The boy, huh? The violin player.
Yes, poor Brendan. He may very well be rotting away in a juvenile hall cell, away from his sick mother and younger siblings, and it's because of you.
You might not believe this, Nadia, but I didn't want that boy to be taken away. I simply wanted to protect you, to make sure your career didn't get sidetracked like my career did.
Your career?
Indeed. May I tell you a story?
Yes, ma'am.
Nadia, many years ago, I was around 18, 19 years of age, was in almost the same boat as you, studying with the great teachers to become an opera star. Well, when I wasn't studying in school, at a college my parents enrolled me in, and at this college was a young man named David Parker. He was a violinist too. In fact, many ways, he was much like that little violinist of yours.
He was? Was he kind? Sweet? Talented? Handsome?
Oh, yes, indeed, he was all of those things. Kind, sweet, handsome, and above all, very talented. We fell madly in love at first sight. In fact, the two of us, we kissed for the first time just upon our third meeting. A bit longer than it took you and that boy.
It wasn't very ladylike, I admit. But, goodness, it felt so wonderful, madam. Like I was floating on air.
Believe me, my child, I am well aware of the wonderful things a girl's first kiss can bring her. I felt the same way when David Parker gave me my first kiss. Butterflies felt as if they were going to simply burst from me when his lips touched mine.
Gosh, how romantic.
Well, David and we began to go steady, and within a few months he proposed marriage to me, wanted to make me his bride.
Oh, did you say yes, madam?
Absolutely not. I told him, David, my love, let us wait until we graduate before we discuss such things. And besides, I simply must see how my opera career progresses before I commit to being your wife. My opera career. Goodness. All the time David and I spent together, it fell by the wayside. We'd go out to dinner, for shows, dancing to his violin concerts when he had them, and because of this, I would skip rehearsing my voice, skip opportunities to sing at events.
Oh, my.
My poor instructors, they begged with me, pleaded with me. They said, Hortense, love, you must stop ignoring your training. If you keep pushing it aside, you will regress as a singer. But I brushed them all aside. I was arrogant. I said, oh, psh posh, missing a few silly lessons won't regress a talent such as mine. And I kept my whirlwind romance with David going. Eventually, I did regress. My voice was weaker. I could barely hold a tune. I was gone for months and months without singing, and it nearly destroyed my career. I had almost sabotaged myself out of opera prestige. Finally snapped back into reality, and when I told David I needed to get back into my training, which would mean less time spent with him, oh goodness, he was furious, angry. What? You care more about some silly singing than you do about me, Hortense? Well, in that moment, I saw before me wasn't a kind, sweet, handsome, talented violinist. I saw a jealous, selfish, horrid man who only cared about himself and only cared about having me because it gave him pleasure, not us. So he and we parted ways, and the parting was not an amicable one.
Oh,
It took me years to get my voice back into shape, and it nearly did not work. But thankfully, I was able to get myself back on track. Now, Nadia, I simply do not want the same thing to happen to you, my child. You're so very young, so very talented, and I don't want you to make the same mistake that I made. To fall head over heels for some boy and care more about pleasing him than about doing what makes you happy and what makes you live your best life. Do you understand what I'm saying, love?
I do, ma'am. But I don't think Brendan has that sort of blackened, horrible heart. He plays the violin to support his family, and he does so without complaint. He said so himself. He doesn't want people to feel sorry for him. To me, that shows the kind heart that he possesses.
It does make sense, my dear. You're right. I confess, that boy is a very splendid violin player, and he does seem like a warm and generous young man, and it's clear to me that you two have eyes for one another. Oh, goodness. Young love. How splendid it is.
I know it seems silly, madam, but I always have believed there's such a thing as love at first sight. I mean, you and Mr. Parker. That's how it happened between the two of you. Did it not?
It did indeed.
A long beat. Madame Hortense stands and gets ready to exit the room. However, she soon turns to Nadia and smiles.
I'll telephone the police and tell them there was a misunderstanding, that this dear little violinist of yours did nothing wrong, and then I'm very sorry.
Madam, will you?
I will. Can't promise I know where he is right now, but I will promise to make things right, my child.
Nadia happily goes to Madame Hortense and hugs her, who smiles and hugs back. The two hold this hug for several moments.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Of course, dear child, I'll go and telephone them now. In the meantime, would you be so kind as to do a bit of singing?
Yes, ma'am, I shall.
Blackout and scene change. We soon light up on a park, somewhere outside. A few days have passed. Nadia, dressed in a lovely light blue ensemble dress, is in a clearing, looking around and smiling happily.
It was so very kind of Madame Hortense to let me practice outside today. I wonder why each little bird has a someone. Something just feels off. Like it's missing. Is it better to sing indoors? Goodness.
Nadia sadly sighs and paces a bit in thought, then stops and closes her eyes to concentrate. Soon, we hear faint but audible violin music playing. It is the tune for I Wonder. Nadia slowly opens her eyes and cocks her ear to listen.
Huh? It can't be. Could it? Brendan?
Indeed, Brendan comes into view, playing his violin and smiling. Nadia, happy tears filling her eyes, comes closer to him.
Miss Nadia.
Nadia wordlessly, happily hugs Brendan as he hugs her back. She soon kisses him on the cheek twice.
Oh, Brendan! I thought you were in some prison cell somewhere.
The police tried to take me in, but I ran off and hid out of sight for a few days. I'm sorry I didn't get a message to you, but I was scared.
Never mind that. I'm just so happy you're here now. Oh, sweet dear Brendan.
The two kids hug again as, slowly, Madame Hortense comes into view, a smile on her face.
Madame Hortense?
Nadia, my child, you and Brendan can hug later. For now, the both of you have to prepare, for you have an audition with the Metropolitan Opera House in 2 days.
The Metropolitan Opera House? My goodness! How exciting! And such an opportunity! Wait. The both of us?
Well, of course, you silly girl. An opera singer mustn't perform without her accompanist, right?
Oh, madam, do you mean it?
She does. Now then, on the top, beautiful Songbird.
From the top, my dear violinist.
With that, Brendan begins to play his violin as Nadia smiles and begins to sing, softly and sweetly, as Madame Hortense looks on with approval. We slowly pan out from this scene as we fade to black and our story comes to a close.